Salutations gamers, I'm the OgichiGame and welcome back to the animation tutorial series. Now today we're going to get into something that I promised to do quite a while ago, but to be honest, I completely forgot about it. Sorry. Thankfully somebody in the comments reminded me that I promised to do it and that I hadn't done it, and so now I'm gonna do it, so thank you. If I ever, remember, I do videos daily, so I forget things from time to time, so if I ever forget to do something that I said I was going to do, just post it in the comments, I'll remember and I'll do it. So, today we're going to be doing the advanced crying tutorial. So, I've put together this model here, although there's, I'm not exactly liking it. Now I finished the sketch, but the model itself here, the animated model I'm working with here isn't 100% finished. The shading and some other things aren't completely done, but we're only focusing on the crying today, so it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Hopefully. Hopefully it's not too distracting or anything. I hope you can see the colors and everything just fine. So, first of all, let's get into the actual tiers here. So, first of all, now, if you remember from the previous animation tutorial on crying, these little baubles here sort of come up a little bit. Sort of they, as the tearing happens, they sort of like fill up into the eyes there. Of course, you don't have to 100% do that. You could also have it to where, like, maybe they blink and then the tears are there or something like that. There's a variety of ways that you can get these little baubles to be there. But the baubles themselves I have under the tier layer here. They are 3 little bubbles with these white specks on them, which are on the same layer. Yes, of course, yes. Now, these specks here, now, the entire layer is on 50% opacity. Keep that in mind, 50% opacity. The bubbles here are just white balls with no stroke, whereas these tears themselves are a light gray for a fill and a slightly medium gray color for its outline to make so that it appears on this white eye layer. It appears on the it appears against the white of the eye while also looking like a tear. Because tears aren't blue, water's not really blue, water's more kind of clear or grayish. Gray is easier to see, so we're going to be working with gray rather than something that's like white or clear, because you can't really see that very well. It can be difficult to depict, especially in animation. In art, it's also complicated, but at the least when, like if you're just doing a picture, when you're just doing a picture, you don't have to worry so much about, oh, well, I have to animate the whole tear motion and everything, so you can work a little bit better with things looking more clear and stuff. But for animation purposes, a gray color works fine, just the way we have it here. And so we have these bubbles here on all the eyes. And they don't do anything, for the most part, except for one thing, which is, under the tears layer itself, under vectors here, layer settings, we have a noisy outline with a noisy fill with animated noise at 0.5, which is very small, very, very small. You probably wouldn't even notice it if you tried. But it has a small effect. If you do really focus on it, you will notice it, but it's a very small effect that gives it kind of a liquid feel to the tears themselves. Too much bigger animated noise, and the tears look kind of ridiculous, but anyway, so yes, they are animated tears. They have that vector, they have the noisy outline and noisy fill, animated noise, which is a really helpful tool. I don't know if Flash has that, or Adobe or any of those other programs, but Anime Studio has it, and I find it to be very helpful to make things look more kind of liquidy with tears. Now, going into the rest of the tear animation, what basically is going to happen is, now I'm not going to focus on this side, I mostly just animated the tears on this side, so that you can see, because over here it wouldn't be too much. You would have a bubble fill here, and then kind of stream along this side, and maybe, you know, a drop or two come down the chin, and then drop off with the other tears, but you know, it's not a whole lot to that, really. You know, if you understand the fundamental here of what's going on this side, you could do the exact same on the other side, on the side of the face. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So, first of all, something that we have is we have what I referred to before as the little bubble that's going to come up, which is the tear on the side of the eye here, not just in here. Now, you could have the tears actually from the eye itself well up more, and then they kind of drip off if you wanted to. Or you could do as I'm doing here, and having the tear, a separate bubble, sort of bubble up, so you can see the tears moving a bit here. But when you're zoomed out, you won't notice that as much. But the bubble kind of builds up here in the side. Then we have the stream layer. The stream layer is going to go all the way down the face, and you probably saw where the stream path is. This is the stream path for the tear from where it begins. And you can see there's a lot of animation involved in that bit there. Now, something I did to actually animate this is a little trick I call reverse animating. Reverse animating is pretty much exactly how it sounds. You actually start off with the animation, where you want the animation to end up, and work backwards. So I actually had the stream outlined where it was all going to go to start with, and put it on frame 48 where it's going to end up, and then I worked backwards to have the tear sort of be here, where it's supposed to be, all the way back here, as you can see. The noisy outline and fill is making it kind of look all crazy and wobbly, but it's actually just a ball right now, as you can see there, just a ball. And again, I reverse animated it so that instead of trying to figure out how I want the tear to go from here streaming down the face, I already had the tear streamed down the face, and I worked myself in reverse. Now, you don't have to do it that way. If it's easier for you to just do the regular method and work forward following the path that you created, that's fine. Go right ahead. However, if at any time you're having trouble with, not just with tear animation, but sometimes with animation, you just find yourself in a bind where you're like, I'm really not sure how to get from point A to point B. Well, sometimes it might help to work backwards and work from point B to point A. Because sometimes you just need to see something in a different perspective. Everyone's different. If that works for me in some cases, not always. You know, there are times where I will sit there and I work forward, not backwards. But with the tear animations and some other animations, I generally work backwards. In the animation, I work from the end to the beginning. Not always, but with certain animated bits, I do that. And again, if you ever have trouble with getting from point A to point B in an animation, try working from point B to point A. And you you should probably be able to get it then because, well, you're looking at it from a different angle, and it helps to see it from that different angle. Now, let's talk about the stream itself. So yes, the stream follows a set path. So as you can actually see here, Anime Studio doesn't allow, Anime Studio, sorry, I'm sick right now, I'm horribly sick if you can't tell by my voice. Anime Studio does not allow me to add new points to the vector during the animated parts, during the animation. It only allows me to add new pieces on frame 0, new points, which is also why reverse animating helped me in this a lot, because I was able to determine how many points I needed from the get-go, and then by reverse animating, I just balled all of that up into a ball, and then went through and followed the animation, creating frames where needed to allow for the tear to follow the path that it needed to, and end up streaming down the face here, like it should, right? There we go, and then it ends up here. Now, you could very easily just sort of end it there, Let me just, let's see, turn off those for a second so you can just sort of see that. You could very easily just have it end here where it streams down the face, and then you just leave it like that. Oopsie daisy. I'll try to remember to censor that later. You could very easily have it just stream down the face, like so, and just leave it like that if you wanted. However, this is the advanced tutorial after all, and we're going to be doing something a fair bit more advanced, which is, after this comes down to stream down the face, as you see here, it's going to go even further and down at the bottom where this is sort of welling up, because with it, the animated noise makes the stream look like it is flowing. Sorry, I'm having so much trouble talking today because, geez, I'm just so, just messed up today. So hopefully that fixes later in the day, but the animated fill and the animated noise makes it look like it's sort of flowing. So at the bottom here, where these end at the chin, we could have drips, 2 different drips, which at the bottom here just well up while the animation goes. I have them on 2 separate layers, drip 1 here and drip 2 here, and they well up, and then the drip from behind moves across into the other drip, and then it becomes a bigger bubble immediately, and then it streams down the face, as you see here, slowing down as it moves, until it is in the position right here at the tip of the chin. And then from the tip of the chin, what we want to do is we don't want it to just sit there, we want it to fall down, kind of drip off, which is why I called them drips. So it then begins to sort of turn into sort of a teardrop, again, teardrop sort of shape falling down. And then right as it's about to fall, we bring drip 2, which drip 2, if you didn't notice, as soon as drip 2 hit into here, it became invisible for the length of this animation. Then we make it visible again under the chin, as you see there. It's right under the chin if you can see it. But anyway, so this begins to drip down, becoming a teardrop shape, with drip 2 behind it right here. And it sort of becomes this an 8 sort of shape, where it's just about to break off, where it's in that sort of teardrop shape, but it's still, the water tension is holding it just barely there before it falls, and then pop. It plops out, like so, and then, as it begins to fall, drip 2 moves back upwards into place, sort of bubbles back up, and then the teardrop just sort of falls down. And very easily, you could have this animation work in a cycle or a loop where this drips off, and then these well up again, or maybe they've been welling up while that's dripped off or something, and then another one comes down, it fills up, it does the same thing, and you create a loop. Very easily that way. And you could just have it continuously go. And so, in the very end, what you should have is something that looks a little bit like this. Now, moving on, there's one other way I want to show you. There's many ways that you can do tear animation, but this is one other way. Instead of having the tears streaming down the face at like a constant, perhaps they just have one tear come down their face. How do you do that? Well, first, let's just make these other layers. Let's just hide these other layers for now, so that we can see exactly that. Make that disappear. Okay. Now, oh, and stream as well. I have these 4 layers here, B2, drop, drop 2, and wet. And wet, you'll see, is actually another one that was sort of reverse animated as well. Now, B2 just sort of replaces B. B was the bubble that you saw well up before. But this time, we're using B2 is going to be welling up slightly different It's going to be getting a little bigger, and it's also going to be staying there for a little longer before the actual tear drops. So it was important that I use another vector for the bubble. A new bubble, basically, that does the same thing as the old bubble, but slightly different, and you'll see. So, first of all, we have B2, which, from nothing, wells up, as you've seen before, and sort of just stays there for a little while. Then it becomes invisible. Once it becomes invisible, drop immediately, as you can see, kind of seamlessly becomes the bubble. And then it goes through an animation. And let me just actually make these invisible for the moment, just so you can see the tear. And the tear will flow down the face, speeding up near the end, and arrive right here at the chin. Okay? And you could just leave it like that. But actually, again, this is the advanced tutorial, so let's go back. And let's actually make the face look like it's being it's a little wet, like it's wet as the tear streams down the face. And that's where wet comes into play here, right here. So wet is invisible the entirety of the time. But then as the tear begins to stream down the face, it is this color that we have here for like the lips, right? It's the same color as that. And so the tear, the wet, is going to follow the tear down the face. As you can see here, it's following the tear down the face, and it makes it look as though the tear is causing the face to become wet as it moves, like so. As you can see there, very simply. Now, again, let's take it a step even further. So it is now flown down the face. You can see where the path of the tear was. Next, we want to actually move this tear down to the chin and make it drop off again. Do the same thing. So we have drop 2 for that. So drop 2, well, first of all, drop 1, the first drop, will move down the chin, as you see here, until it is in position right here near the tip, right near the tip of the chin. Then, what it's going to do is it's going to begin that process of kind of becoming a teardrop again. And then right here, drop 2 tries to seamlessly move itself into place here, as seamlessly as possible. Then as it continues its little animation of becoming a teardrop, and then pop, almost there. It's about to pop and pop. And then drop 2 moves back into place, as you see there. So it pops off and moves back, while drop 1 falls off screen, like so. And that's another way that you can do it. Again, there's a multitude of ways to do it, but understanding these sort of fundamental principles and how they all work can make you create your own unique way if you wanted. But anyway, after all of that, what you should have is something that looks a little bit like this. Anyway, though, I think I've explained about as much as I can with this sort of tutorial. So, if you guys like this episode, make sure to hit like on it. Otherwise, I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye-bye!